Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's event. Today, we are having our International Women's Day event organized by Women Techmakers, coming from the West African Anglophone region. My name is Samira. I am the WTM ambassador for Accra, Ghana. And with me here, we have Charity. So Charity will introduce herself. Charity, you are muted.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So just as Samira mentioned, my name is Charity.
Charity, you are muted.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So just as Samira mentioned, my name is Charity.
Charity, you are muted.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So just as Samira mentioned, my name is Charity.
Charity, you are muted.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes. If you have the YouTube open, there might be a delay. So you can just stay on this platform.
Okay. I had to close the YouTube tab.
Okay. So you're fine.
Okay.
So you can just stay on this platform.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay. I had to close the YouTube tab.
Okay. So you're fine.
Okay.
So you can just stay on this platform.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay. I had to close the YouTube tab.
Okay. So you're fine. Why? What's happening? Just stay on this platform.
Samira, if you have opened the YouTube tab, then it means that you'll be hearing sound from both tabs. So you'd have to close another tab or use this. Samira, if you have opened the YouTube tab, then
so you can close the YouTube tab. Okay, so I think, or maybe Hartina can try.
Introduction?
Yes.
So, Hadia is my name, but my full name is Hartina Clean.
Okay.
I live in Liberia, and I am the lead for WTM Monrovia.
Thank you. You're welcome. So maybe Charity can try to introduce herself again. Hopefully the problem has been resolved.
hello.
Hi.
Okay, sure. Sorry for what happened earlier. My name is Charity, and I am the WTM ambassador for Kumasi. I am also part of the GDJ Kumasi organizers, and I'm hoping that we'll have a good time together today. Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have Teresa. So Teresa will introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Therese. I'm from the Gambia, Women Techmakers Ambassador and GDG Banjo Lead.
Cool. So, and with us on the screen, you will see a lovely lady whom I'm about to introduce to you. Her name is Memunat, and she will be giving us our keynote address. Memunat is the founder of Women Techmakers. Sorry, Memunat is the founder of Women for Tech, a club born to create awareness and encourage and advance women in tech from the classroom to the boardroom. And she is also the WTM mentor, not ambassador. She's the mentor for West Africa Anglophone region. She's also a community builder. She's a tech evangelist. And most of all, a lover of clean code and coffee, according to her. So we will welcome Memunat to give us the keynote address.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Memunat Manzuma, the mentor for WTM SSA West Africa Anglophone, and I'm so happy to join this call this morning. So I'll be giving a keynote on the celebration of Women Techmakers, the International Women's Day for West Africa Anglophone. So so this year, WTM, that's Women Techmakers, is celebrating a very huge celebration across the world. So it actually brings together thousands of developers globally at the moment to celebrate and provide visibility for incredible contributions around the world, which has to do with women, and it's also called for action that has to do with accurating the gender equity. During March and April, Women Techmakers, that's WTM, and Google Developers Group come together to celebrate, learn, and connect with each other at WTM summits, events, and meetups to inspire from talking such as giving technical talks, non-technical talks, inspirational keynotes, career-focused panels, and also networking. So you meet a lot of people across the world to celebrate Women Techmakers. You connect with them, you create, and you network with everyone. So for this year, the hashtag for this year is courage to create. So we challenge every woman out there to have that courage to create, to have that courage to solve, to have that courage to justify, to have that courage to change something from the community or within herself. So many WTM IWD, that's the International Women's Day, for this year is actually virtual due to the COVID-19 outbreak. So most of the events is virtual, and which means you can connect from anywhere around the world, right sitting at home. So using the hashtags, you can see the hashtag at the screen, your screen. So the 2021 hashtag is hashtag courage to create. We have our own hashtag IWD 2021, hashtag WTM West Africa, hashtag WTM SAC. So we encourage you to share your feelings, share your thoughts, share your achievements, share your challenges as well using these following hashtags. Let's change, let's create. Definitely, we are building and celebrating a world where women actually can drive in tech. So let's see what we can do for this year. Yeah, so I caught this from Muhammad Ali. He says, "He who is not courageous enough to take risks will achieve nothing in life," and which is right. right? If you don't, you must have courage to create. You must have courage to take that risk. Yes, if you want to do something in this world without taking risks, you won't be able to achieve it. So don't say, if I fail or if I don't achieve this thing, it will be a downfall. No. A downfall of a man is not the end of the world. And it's actually a lesson to improve when you stand up to achieve the particular goal in this life. So you just have to take this risk to achieve something in life. This actually happens to most of we women. Most of we women, we don't like taking risk. We feel we should just do something and achieve it at once, and that's not life. So you just have to clear that doubt that you must take risk before you can achieve something in this life. Yeah, so getting to know WTM, that's Women Techmakers. Women Techmakers is actually a global home brand, and is actually Google program that has to do with women in tech, that provides visibility, community, and resources for women in technology globally. So this program is global, it's everywhere. They support women from different levels, women that joins, drives, lead the industry. They encourage women developers as well. Developers, designers, entrepreneur, product managers, a lot of women that has to, if you are in tech field, even though you are not in tech field, Women Techmakers encourage you to drive in tech, because everything around this world now, it has to do with technology. Be you a be you a be you an accountant, be you a banker, be you anything, even though you work on farm, you just have to use technology to do to carry on with the day-to-day life activities. So Women for Tech, Women Techmakers, that's WTM, they support all genders to participate and voluntarily in all the women-based events and initiatives. So if you have a community of women, even though you are a guy, if you have a community of women, we encourage and we actually support you to participate and encourage women around you to join this program to improve their skills. So I hope you are hearing me. Hello? Hello, I hope you can hear me. Okay. So counting down to WTM in West Africa, except Nigeria, because that's the region I control. So presently we have WTMs we have 5 WTMs across 3 countries, which is the Ghana, we have Liberia, and we have Gambia. So from these three countries, we have WTM Accra, we have WTM Cloud Accra, we have WTM Kumasi, we have WTM Banjul, we have WTM Monrovia. So we are hoping to increase the number of chapters within the region with the head of GDGs, that's the Google Developers Group. Yeah, so yeah, for our ambassadors, the WTM ambassadors and the members in West Africa, yeah, as I said earlier, we have 5 WTM ambassadors, right? We have across 3 countries with 400 plus members. So we're still counting anyway. It's actually a community that is a bit The growth is a bit slow, but we are working towards developing and connecting through other countries, right? So yeah, so this year's vision, we have a vision for WTM West Africa Anglophone 2021. So we have 4 visions. The first one is chapter activities. So we increase the chapter activities across the region, leading to growth. As I said earlier, we need to grow our community, and it just has to do with all hands on deck. So we are working together with all communities, chapters, WTM chapters, to grow grow the chapters across the region. So as you can see, that this is one of the examples of the vision we are having. Today we are celebrating a region IWD, which has to do with all the ambassadors across the region. So the second one is collaboration, to improve collaboration among the ambassadors. Yeah, so since last year, I can see that we have been improving our communications within ourselves. We collaborate, we discuss. If we have events, we discuss, we invite each other to join the event. So improving this collaboration among ambassadors is one of the vision we are looking forward to, and we're already achieving it. So the third one is eliminating barriers, like to help eliminate barriers to setting up new chapters. So we have these issues from other countries within West Africa that are trying to set up a new chapter without WTM. Sorry, without the GDGs, that's Google Developers Group. So we are looking forward to see if the WTMs can stand on their own to actually drive the community, you know. So before, we are working towards it already, and hopefully we see a very beautiful outcome in it. So the last vision we have for 2021, mitigating the dispute. So among mitigating the major disputes among ambassadors. So these are the 4 visions we have for 2021, and it's already kicked off. Yeah, I can proudly say that it's already kicked off, and we are moving forward as far as WTM West Africa Anglophone is concerned. Yeah, so I have this quote again from Abraham Lincoln, which says, "Courage is not the absence of fear; it is going forward with the face of fear." Yeah, you shouldn't say because you don't have courage is the absence of fear, because you are afraid of doing something is not an absence of courage. The absence of courage is for you to have this fear and not going forward. But for you to have this fear in you and still not stopping. Take for instance, I want to be a developer, and I've been hearing it within my community that females is not the field of development, that's let's say web development, Android development, is not really good for the females. There is this barrier there, and you have this fear that what if I join this field, I won't be able to succeed or something. You shouldn't think that way. You should think of it that, okay, fine, there is a fear in this field, but I just want to face this challenge. I just want to see, okay, what is it exactly that the female or the women cannot achieve in this particular field? What a man can do, a woman can do better. So within the face of your fear, you should have the courage to continue and keep moving on. So thank you so much. I don't have much to say. And once again, my name is Memunat Manzuma, the ambassador for WTM SSA West Africa Anglophone. And okay, Samira also introduced me as the founder of Women for Tech. So I'd like to say a small thing about Women for Tech. Women for Tech is actually a club born out to create awareness, encourage, improve, and advance women from the classroom to the boardroom. So this has to do with just from primary level to secondary level in the female. So we encourage and improve. We teach, we guideline these young ladies within the primary school and secondary schools from the classroom to the boardroom how to get use of the technology. Thank you so much. Don't forget to share your post. Don't forget to tweet using the hashtag and let's know that this event is actually live. Thank you so much.
I think Hartina might be having some issues. Hello? Okay, Hartina is here.
Yeah. So I'm Hartina Cleon, lead for WTM Monrovia. I will do the introduction for our first speaker here today in person of Najib, and he's gonna do a taste of the web with Flutter. So our speaker Najib is a Google developer expert, and he's passionate about software development. He has many years of experience in developing and architecting complex web and mobile applications. His passions are generally Flutter, PWA, that is Progressive Web Application, and performance. He is an award winner, book author at iPress, and an instructor at the Pocket Park and Udemy and Pluralsight. He loves sharing his knowledge with the community by writing and speaking, and also having workshops and video tutorials that contribute to open source. He also organizes meetups and events. He's also the organizer of several big Nordic conferences and meetups such as Floater Vikings. So at this junction, we will turn over to our speaker in person of Najib. Najib, you are
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect then. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Really appreciate choosing my session today. Let's move on and talk about Flutter Web and see what you can do after this session with Flutter Web. I'd like to take you to deep dive into the Flutter Web and show you how easy it is for you to get started with, especially with Flutter. All right. But before we start, let me just talk about some examples. The first example is these little games that perhaps you've seen in your browser from time to time. Or maybe another example, which is built by Flutter. And you've probably have seen it, or if not, then I'm trying to show you right now how smooth you can show these animations and it works. Or perhaps this one, which is probably my favorite. So look at this smooth animation when you are swapping between pages. These are all built in with Flutter Web. And after Flutter Engage, about a month ago or 20 days ago, Flutter Web is also unstable. And now you can see even more performant applications coming out. Let's talk about that and see what you can do. All of these demos that you've seen has been built with Flutter and it's running on CodePen. So with that said, it is a Flutter web version of these demos. So I'll share my slides later, and then you can go ahead and see all of these examples and sample codes. Don't worry about the examples and source and resources link. But today, we're going to talk about how Flutter Web works. We're going to compare Dart with JavaScript and TypeScript. Perhaps many of us have been doing web for a while, and it's nice to compare and see these comparison. Flutter Web and some concept from web and other JavaScript framework. I will compare them and show you how you can be on board with Flutter Web easily. And then we're gonna start with some tips and tricks and links and how you can start your application with Flutter Web, and some demos at the end. I was already introduced to you. My name is Majid Hajian. I'm based in Oslo. Now I'm flying virtually to your city. And I don't need to explain more. I was introduced very well. So let's move on. But one thing before we move on, if you're going to find me on social media or anywhere on internet, so you can find me by this handler on the screen. Almost everywhere, LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub, so you can find me with this handler. All right. But what is Flutter? For those who don't know, Flutter is the UI toolkit, and that means it's giving you a lot of flexibility when it comes to creating your UI on mobile and now on different platforms as well. And what is interesting is that you are just taking care of your UI with one language only, and that's Dart. And you have only one single code base, and then you can compile to different platforms. And platforms, I mean web, Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, and etc. In fact, by giving these expressive and flexible UI, the speed of development is going up and it's going to be fast. Therefore, after you compile, and then you can compile your app to a native performance, closely to native performance, so you can quickly create your applications. And that means you can simply become more productive. All right. That is about Flutter. But if I want to take you a little bit deeper, Flutter, if you're talking about the two top layers of Flutter, is that we're going to have a framework layer and we're going to have an engine layer in Flutter. And the fact that we as a developer working with Flutter, we usually work with the top layer. That's the framework layer. And that's Dart. And we're just always working with that, theming, all the widgets, animations, and etc. And in fact, when we are compiling to the different platforms, for instance, let's say in Android and iOS, we are using different engines. And when we are talking about web, so we are talking about an engine that is compiling to JavaScript. But for other platforms, Flutter is using Skia, which is an open source 2D graphic library. And that is going to draw everything on different screens for you. So on on web, then Flutter uses the engine that is compiling everything to JavaScript and HTML. And they're also now compiling to another, we have two renderer for Flutter, let's say, when we are compiling our Flutter application to web. We have HTML renderer and we have Canvas renderer. We're going to talk about that shortly. But the fact that we can use Flutter, or because Flutter only use Dart, is because Dart comes with a handy compiler says Dart to JS, and that helps us to compile any Dart file to JavaScript file. So we can then run our application natively in browser. But let's talk about the renderers that I mentioned. We have in Flutter 2 two stable renderer right now. We have HTML renderer, which is quite optimal and optimized for mobile web. So, but it has its own downsides. It's smaller in terms of download size, but it has some inconsistency. But we have then also CanvasKit renderer, which is now stable. And the way that it works is that technically you have a Skia, very minimal version of that, together with WebAssembly, and it's running on the browser. So it's going to very fast and performant render your application in the browser with Canvas API. So therefore, it's going to be very, very consistent between different platforms and different browsers, and that is a good a choice when it comes to rendering for desktop web, let's say. But it has its own downside, and one of the downsides is that the download size is about 2 megabytes, and it's a bit, higher than what we are expecting to see in different browsers, in different applications on web. But I added one demo here. I am not going to play it right now. But I added here with the source code that you can run and see how performant Flutter Web, especially after releasing Flutter 2, which web came to stable version, can be. And also the source code is here, so you can, in your time, check out the source code and make sure that you understand how they have been putting together this performant application. All right, so let's move on. If my computer crash, give me a second, sorry. All right. Sorry, here you go. But Flutter Web has its own use cases or scenarios. So at the moment, Flutter Web is pretty good for those who wants to create like a web application, and at the same time, they want to have a similar version on different platforms like Android and iOS, and different platforms like desktop versions. And the fact that you can just build a single page application and turn them to a PW or a progressive web app, it makes it very good use cases for any application, especially for those type of application that you need to get a login access from user and then after that show some data. So you don't need much, let's say, performance in the beginning. So therefore, you can simply let user log in and after that show your dashboard, the user data, and user doesn't need to actually jump in and jump out from the browser. So it's gonna stay in the application for a while. It's gonna be a great use case for that. We'll get to some caveats of the Flutter Web at the end of the talk too. So then you will have a better understanding of when to choose Flutter Web. All right, let's continue. So we are talking about Flutter, and the secret sauce as team, the product owner, the product manager of the Flutter and Dart team says that the secret sauce behind Flutter is Dart. And we have to talk about Dart for sure. But Dart is a very simple language, I can assure you. So if you have not done even a Dart language so far, you will learn it very easy. And let's compare it with some of the concepts of Dart with JavaScript and TypeScript, which is a subset of JavaScript. So in JavaScript world and TypeScript world, you know that JavaScript is a single threaded. It's run in. We have an event loop, and and technically, you have, when you write your JavaScript, it's just-in-time compilation, right? And then TypeScript comes in handy when you write everything and then you compile ahead of time, you optimize, and then it's type safe. And if you combine all of this, it becomes Dart. So Dart is all of this. So let me give you an example from TypeScript to Dart. So in fact, in TypeScript, you may declare a class. This syntax might be familiar to you right now. And then you have your variable, or in the class, you can define your constructor passing some, variable or argument. Or in TypeScript, you define your type with colon and then type after the colon. And you can also define your method. And in the method, if for instance, if an asynchronous method, you put the async keyword before the method name. And you may also have promise as a return. Promise is a concept for making a JavaScript working asynchronous. And in fact, you may declare a main function, and inside the main function, you instantiate this class, or you call this method and do whatever you want. And if you want to get all of this to work, this function, you need to call this function, right? Main function. But now let's look at the Dart file. I want to show you how easy it is, the concept, if we compare it. So in Dart, then we are creating our variable similar to TypeScript. You have a class, and then the variable, the type are coming behind the variable name. And that's the only difference. There is no colon here. And the constructor name, by the way, is as same name as the class name. So in Dart, in TypeScript, you have constructor, but in Dart, whatever class name is, it's going to be the constructor name if you need. And the asynchronous method on the class, you just put async after the class name, method name. And in fact, in Dart, the concept of promise, it's equivalent to feature. So we have feature, and that is going to be an asynchronous process for you. And in Dart, you don't need to call main function. In each Dart file, if you want to get something to execute it and to run, you need to have a main function. And then main function gets called automatically by Dart compiler. So then you can instantiate your class. You see that there is no need for new, for instance, keyword here. You can use, but it's not necessary. And then you call your method similar to TypeScript. And instead of console log, then you have only print. You can print to your console. So these are very, very similar. If you compare it even closely, you will find different approach, different similarities between all of these function. These TypeScript and Dart languages. Then in JavaScript world, we also have a concept called observables, which we are using with a library called RxJS, for instance. And that creates for us a stream. But in Dart, a stream, it's called a stream, and it's part of the language itself. It's built in. So you have a stream already, and then that's the different syntax you're going to use only. So, but let's talk about something is wrong today with my computer. It's just crashing. Let me. Okay. Sorry. But let's talk about Flutter. So now you see that how easy Dart language is. Now let's talk about Flutter. And let's compare it with some of the concept with web. First of all, when it comes to Flutter, you may hear this like many times that everything in Flutter is a widget. All right. So literally everything is a widget. And widget is equivalent to component in some frameworks or in web. You can even compare it with web components on web. But let's see how it works. Before that, we have two type of widgets. Similar to web, you either have a component that it does not have any state, just a stateless. So in Flutter, we call it a stateless widget. Or you have some stateful widget, which also has some state and is changing. Once the state is changing, that widget or that component on web is going to re-render and rebuild. That's the concept, right? Two types of widgets. But let's now compare a widget from TypeScript, which is stateless. You know that in Flutter, we extend all the widgets or the class that we are going to create our widget from a stateless widget, and then we're going to have build method, which is going to return some type of widget to render or build on the screen. As an example here, I have now a text widget, which is just rendering a text. An equivalent to that for JavaScript Word is going to be a web component. So technically, you have a class like Hello World, you extend HTML elements, and that's going to create a web component for you. And in fact, so then in the connected callback, you're going to have the inner HTML and then assign some DOM to that. So that renders for you. So you see that the similarities are very, it's a lot between these two. Or let's take another example. Perhaps many of you are familiar with React. The class space of React, the way that we create React component was, so you have a class, you extend React component, you see that it's type of component, you see you're extending, and that gives you a render method. And the render method will render your DOM or maybe other React component as well. And that's similar to what you do with Flutter. You have a widget, and that's going to have a build method instead. And that's going to return some type of a widget, which is going to render on the screen. So there are, in fact, a lot of stateful and stateless widgets already created for you out of the box. As I said, Google is Flutter is a UI toolkit. And you have asset image, text, scrollable, animation, animatable, or many other widgets, that buttons, everything that you need technically. Or you can create your own widget. Nothing can stop you. So go ahead and create whatever you want. And a lot of widgets are already also built in and published on the repository for you to download and install. We'll get to that soon. Let's have another comparison. So in fact, in HTML, so you have in your index file, you're going to have that component, like a web component, let's say, my app header, and then some type of web component, which is accepting, a type of argument, and maybe a style or a DOM that has inline styling. But how you do it is in Flutter, it's a bit more declarative. It's the way that you just work with one language makes it even easier for you. You just need to understand the syntax and all of those APIs that gives you this ability to create that particular part of the screen. For instance, so after you're running your app or scaffolding your application, the app bar is technically the header. So you can use that technically. Or in the body, you can have a center text. Center is a widget. Or you can have a text widget, which is going to have a text. Or you can give some style to this text widget. For instance, you can just change the font weight to some other font weights, like bold. The comparison is one-to-one. If you look at the code, it's going to be more easy for you to understand how to work with Flutter. It makes easier to understand. Let's move on and see one of the good part of the web is like writing CSS. CSS is very powerful, and how you do it in Flutter, it's a bit different though. So you define your class as an example, or assign it to some kind of DOM. That DOM will get the class styling. However, in Flutter, there is no such a thing. There is no CSS. You do everything with Dart language and all of those widgets that has been created, and the compiler will compile it for you automatically. As an example, here, when you say you are going to create a class, that class in Flutter would be maybe a widget, which is going to do some kind of styling for you. As an example, you can create a special text widget, which is accepting a text and rendering a special type of, a styling, like font bold or adding some padding and things like that. And of course, you need to do some kind of advanced, let's say, CSS and HTML, like creating a linear background gradient. So that's the way you do in Flutter. Again, it's expressive and it's declarative. So you're going to use all of those widgets that gives you this ability to create that. And in fact, it's going to be very easy. For instance, in Flutter, you have linear gradient, which has some type of arguments. And if you fill all of those arguments, you will get that equivalent to the CSS version as you create. Or one of the most important thing is that in Flutter, as I said, it's only one language you're dealing. There is no markup template. There is no HTML type of the, templating or markup. So you just write everything in Dart, and you need to understand all the syntax, and that's it. But what about the events? Of course, so when you are doing web, you are dealing with a lot of events. You're dealing with touch, click, or mouse, or, enter, mouse, leave, and a lot of events like that. And you can actually capture all of those events in Flutter with a widget that's called gesture detector. And in fact, behind all of those widgets that is already built in, like button, there is this widget, so which is capturing those touch and tab and everything like that. So you can go ahead and use the widget and create your own particular, a widget that is capturing some type of event on web too. So you want to pass in web, let's say different framework, you need to pass in a DOM tree, you need to pass something from root to the children, and from very top to very bottom, sometimes you need to re-render stuff and you need to access to the data. Here in Flutter, there is a concept that we call it inherited widget. And in fact, there are a lot of other libraries that makes this inherited widget even working for you easier. Some of the concept for state management, for instance, libraries such as Provider. And in web, we have a very popular concept, maybe not now, but years ago, like Redux. And you can do Redux pattern also in Flutter. There is no problem whatsoever. You can create your store, you provide it from the root, and you can access it in any children. And once the state is changing, so that particular child is going to be rebuilt. You need routing. You need to create your single page application, or so this is the way that you can do in Flutter. You can have two different strategies. Even you can have a hash-based strategy or a path-based strategy. And the way that we are defining our routing system, it's also very similar to many frameworks. In fact, you say, this is my path, and I want to render these widgets when this path is hitting on the browser. So this is a similar concept again. So, but what about the responsiveness? So we need to have responsiveness web applications. So responsive web applications is a crucial aspect of developing a web application. And that's absolutely possible in Flutter. You can technically have different patterns for creating your responsive design. However, one of the most important thing is that you can get the size of a screen with media query, one of the widgets that is providing the size of the media, the screen for you. And then depends on the size, you can definitely render different widgets. For a smaller or a larger screen, do whatever you want. And then it's going to get rendered based on those size. And even if you resize your browser, you will see it is going to be responsive. Animation is probably a very hard topic on web, and it's not as easy as it should be. But on Flutter, we have a lot of helpers and widgets. It is going to create a 60 FPS animation for us out of the box, and it's also working with web. Here is an example. It's going to be a complex example here. Don't worry about it. But the point of the code here is that that's built in to the framework, and you don't need to worry about any third-party library. And at the end of the day, so you create your single page application with Flutter, you turn it automatically to a progressive web app. The initial load first time might be slow, but the second time, because you are making your application working offline, you're registering automatically. You don't do that actually. Flutter is doing that for you out of the box. You may opt out though if you don't need it, but the first time it's going to be much faster. The second load, it's going to be much faster with service worker caching the app shell of your application. The source code of the Flutter web looks like this, especially if you use Canvas Git renderer, and it's going to be a little bit tedious to debug on Chrome Inspector. In fact, Flutter comes with a debugger that helps you, and that's cross-platform debugging. So you don't need to actually just debug it for web; it's for all platform. Where you can debug your application and you can inspect widgets, even change it right on the spot on the Dart DevTools Explorer and see which is working for you or not. And you see the immediate result on Flutter Web 2. And a lot of modern APIs already on web that you can use in Flutter too. There are a lot of experiments with Flutter that you can definitely go ahead and use them, like WebAssembly, using WebGL, or Worklets and Service Worker, and a lot of other APIs that are available on web, and you can directly use them on Flutter too. Flutter has an amazing community, for sure, a very big and still growing community. And there are lots of plugins. It's a funny thing is that when you use these plugins, they support also multiple platforms. They just don't support web. They support Android, iOS, web, and Linux desktop. One of the example is Plus plugins, which I'm also working on them. And so we're supporting all of those platforms out of the box. So you don't need to think about. So when you are compiling your Flutter web from iOS to Android, from Android to web, so that particular plugin is going to support all of those platforms. That's a good thing about Flutter. And that's the reason maybe you want to choose Flutter for your next project and also compile it to web. So how can you start? First of all, you will have your IDEs. Flutter almost works with all IDEs, but the best support that you can get is VS Code, IntelliJ, or Android Studio. After you install in a Dart and Flutter plugins, then you go ahead and install the SDK. Once that's done, it's only a few steps to create a project. And now Flutter 2 is on a stable channel, and that means Flutter 2 is supporting web for stable. So you don't need to do anything extra. Once you create Flutter, you will just need to run that in Chrome, and that's it. You can run the same code base on Android and iOS, or Linux and desktop too. Linux, Windows, and Mac. But how is the anatomy of the folder, which is created by the CLI? So you're gonna have a lib folder which contains one important file, and that's main.dart, and everything starts from there. And the main function which is going to execute, I explained, is starting from there. So you create your module, create your widgets and modularize your application from there. You can create multiple widgets, multiple files, important anywhere, no problem whatsoever. Then you have the test folder and you have build folder, and maybe if you have done web, you know npm and package.json, which is containing all of this package and dependencies. And in fact, pubspec.yaml file is equivalent to that, which is going to download and maintain your dependencies and downloading everything from pub.dev, which is a repository for maintain or downloading the Dart packages or Flutter packages. All right. So, but let me show you one example. Here is a Facebook clone with Flutter Web, and that's right now working here, and it's going to work very smooth. You see here, and it's also working offline. So after you see my slides and you want to play with this, you can even disconnect, and then you see that even these examples that I put it in my slides are working offline. So because they are PWA and they're working very well. All right, let's move on and show that in a mobile size. And that's a mobile size. And see that it's fully responsive here, and it's a tablet size here. And it's fully responsive in tablet as well. That's the same application. I just resized it. There are a couple of other examples that you may go and check it out yourself. And one of the good examples for creating cross-platform application with Flutter, and of course it has also web version, and that's Flutter Folio, which was announced in Flutter Engage conference like 3rd of March this year. All right, so and what we have learned. First of all, you've seen the layers of Flutter and how they handle that framework Dart file and compile it to JavaScript or maybe other platforms natively. And then you saw the comparison between Dart and TypeScript, in fact, and you see that there are many similarities between both. So you can go ahead and learn them very easy. And I also compared Flutter with some web concept as well as some of the JavaScript web framework concepts, such as React. So then you saw that almost everything is pretty similar if you just compare them like this. So now it's going to make sense for you if you start. You can, even if you are a web developer and you are going to use Flutter Web, now it's going to make sense for you to start with Flutter. To me, Flutter actually opens a new window for many developers, not only web developers, but also native developers like desktop or Android and iOS developers who never had done any web, project before, and now they are able to simply use Flutter and not only create iOS and Android, but also compile to other platforms with a little bit knowledge of that particular platform. Although, of course, if you know, the more you know about the platform, the better you can develop. But Flutter gives you this ability to write your application and run it in several platforms, including web. But before we go, let me just also talk about some of the caveats. And Flutter Web still needs some improvement. I believe after Flutter 2 was unstable and it was promoted to stable, let's say, on almost 20 or months ago, and 3rd of March in Flutter Engage, we've seen a huge improvement to Flutter Web by promoting to stable. However, I still believe Flutter needs a better SEO improvement. Its code size, time to time, it's pretty big. Although you can do code splitting, you can make chunk-based loading and things like that in Dart and Flutter, but it's still not optimal. It doesn't. It cannot be as good as what we are expecting on web. There might be still some performance improvement, especially when you're using HTML renderer, and maybe accessibility a bit more better. So I put a read more, a link in the read more section, so you can go and read more about the stable version of the web. But as I said, Flutter is not going to be a big or a competitor to the current JavaScript framework. Flutter is going to have its own use cases or scenarios. And in fact, so in Flutter Web, you have some use cases that I mentioned in the beginning. For example, if you're building a single page application and you want to actually turn that to different platforms, and you don't necessarily care about like SEO because you're building for some users that are going to see your application after login, then it's going to be a good use case for you to choose Flutter Web. I actually built some application with Flutter Web, and it's already on production, even if when it wasn't beta. But learn more. I added some resources links here, so you can go to these links. There was a big event on February, which I was part of it, 30 days of Flutter, and there were a lot of good contents that we gathered and created together with a lot of other members and Googlers. So then you can go to that events, and maybe if you haven't started working with Flutter yet, that's a very good starting point. In 30 days, every day you have some content, or every week, and then you can go ahead and learn that. And that's also part of it. It's Flutter Web that you're going to learn and compile it for web. For more information, read other texts and start from there. There are lots of good information on flutter.dev documentation website. With that said, thank you very much for listening to me. The link is available here on my slides, and I will share it on the comment. I will ask the organizer to share this link. In fact, I can ask right now. Yes, please share this link. And you can get access to all of these slides, including all the resources that I used and I added. And I recommend you to read and learn more about the Flutter web and Flutter in general. And you can also get access to the source codes of all of those demos and examples that you've seen in the slides. If there is any question, I'm happy to take some. I think we still have a couple of minutes left, perhaps. Hello, welcome back. I think you are muted, maybe. All right, until they come and speak with me. So let me one more time say one thing. If you're watching still, you may have a question right now. Can I use Flutter Web right now for my application in production? Because I've heard this question a lot of times, and the answer is yes, you can, but you need to follow some certain evaluations for applications and realize if the Flutter Web is going to be the answer. And based on the scenarios that I pointed out in my slides, for example, creating a single page application which you can turn to PWA and make it to work offline, and also, let's say, you don't really care about SEO or things like that. And also, you want to create the same web app and maybe similar functionality or maybe similar design to Android and iOS, and maybe later some desktop application, then here Flutter is for you. But if you want to like create just a web application, just one application, and that has a public facing, like a blog or something like that, then in fact, I don't think Flutter Web is going to be a very good choice for you, especially with having a lot of JavaScript framework that is working very well, like React, Angular, or Svelte, or Vue. So perhaps you need to evaluate those libraries and use them. So Flutter Web, as I said, it has its own use case and it has its own scenario uh, type of building application. So then you need to understand your application first very well. Then you should be able to decide whether you should go with Flutter or not. And I think now I am actually full screen. That's good. So I'm happy also to take some other question if there's any until Hart come back. So maybe I can answer one more question, which I don't see anything in the comment at least, but I can. Yeah, but I can actually take one more question. Okay, you're back. You're on mute though. Uh, there was also one question I see in the comment that about or in the Twitter about performance of the Flutter application. Um, Flutter app, Flutter Web right now, together with especially Canvas Kit renderer. And by the way, the renderer in Flutter Web, when you are going to compile your application, it's going to do like an automatically choose the renderer. So for desktop, it's going to render with, Canvas Kit, and for mobile, it's going to render both. Like automatic mode is already for already selected or chosen for Flutter Web. So you don't need to, unless you specifically need to say, oh, I need only Canvas Kit, or I need only, let's say, HTML renderer. So therefore, the performance of Canvas renderer, it's much better. It's way faster. However, it comes with a downside of, because it uses WebAssembly and new APIs and uses the Skia to render, everything with a Canvas kit. It's way better, but it comes with a downside, as I mentioned, and that's the download size of the bundle. There is also one caveat with there were a lot of actual problem with Flutter Web when it comes to performance. Not a lot, let's say a few outstanding one, but many of them have been fixed with Flutter 2. And right now, if you're using Flutter 2 web version, uh, it's going to be working pretty well. And I've seen some tweets and also some examples by community members who used to work with Flutter Web in beta, and they had some kind of problem, even crashing the application and browser. But then once they used Flutter 2 version and compiled their application, everything was working very smoothly. And that's something you need to take into account. if you have some type of application that has a lot of DOM manipulation, or you're manipulating DOM a lot, especially let's say um, for type of let's say table. So you have a table and it's a very complex table on web. And in fact, that's going to like you want to sort, rows or columns in search and things like that. And the table is going to render a lot of, rows for you, like I don't know, 2000 or something rows, let's say. And that might be probably a bit of not a good user experience in Flutter Web. I've not done actually myself yet, but I've seen some examples that doesn't work very well. So still, there are some endeavor and let's say some improvement that Flutter team is working on them, and they are fixing these issues for you. For instance, so we had also some kind of other problem with some of the widgets, for instance, text. So text was not very intuitive on web with Flutter Web. You couldn't just select it easily, or sometimes you just could see, let's say, um, uh, context menu on Android when you right click and some type of issues like that. So you as a web user, not web developer, you don't expect to see those behavior, and many of them has been fixed in Flutter Web right now, and so you don't need to care about that. And that's a good thing about actually Flutter, because the team behind it is working very hard to get everything sorted out, and that's amazing, I believe. Hello, Sam.
Hi. So Hartina is having
Am
a
I
few
running out of time?
network issues.
Yeah, no
No,
problem.
no, no,
That
you're
will
not.
happen.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions in the comments, not that I
Sure.
see. But you've made it so simple. I mean, I've never done web generally, and I never learned Flutter, but you made it seem very simple to understand. You made it look like it's completely no-brainer.
Yeah,
But
well,
yes,
it is
it's really
actually
good.
simple. So, yeah, good. So then you know what to do after the conference, right, Sami?
Yes, I'll try to learn a little bit of Dart and Flutter
That's
and
good. That's
see if
very
I
good.
can apply it to. I've learned some Android, but I guess I could try to merge the two and see how it goes.
Yeah, sure.
So,
That's very good.
so thank you so much, Majid. If there are no more questions, Majid will say bye-bye for now. But if you have any questions later on, I guess if you stick around as long as you can,
Sure.
if there are any more questions in the comments, Majid
Yeah,
will be
sure.
around to answer them.
If
So
there's
thank
anything and
you.
I will not be around, you can reach me out on my social media, like Twitter, for instance. Just you can ask anything. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you for having me today, and have a fantastic day and conference.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Okay, so now it's time for a short break. Um, just get your Twitter open, start tweeting, send messages to your friends, people who are not here yet. Invite your friends, invite as many people as you can, because we are still not done yet. So we will go on a short Twitter break for 5 minutes, and then we will continue the program. In that time, I will be checking in Twitter if there are any highest tweeters. If you are not tweeting, you better start tweeting now, because we'll be giving out prizes to the best tweets and the highest tweeter. I don't know what to call them. I guess it's Twitter. So please start tweeting. I'm monitoring the Twitter account. So if you have not started yet, I'm checking. And meanwhile, we will go on this short break and we will be back in about 4 minutes. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned, and we will be back. Hello and welcome back. I hope you've been tweeting. I've seen a few, but not enough. I'm going to still keep tracking. So throughout the event, if I see that you've been tweeting and you've been sending the event around to your friends, you will hear from us and we will send you a little package. So our next item on the list is a few lightning talks from our own community members. We had one GDE, so for now it's our turn. It's our time to speak to one another, woman to woman. So if Charity is there, Charity, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I thought you had left me all by myself. Okay, so we will be ready to begin our lightning talks. We will be having 3 lightning talks, and Charity will be our host for this session. So over to you, Charity.
Okay. Welcome once again to everyone. So it's time for our lightning talk. And with the first lightning talk, we would invite Charity, who is EdTech enthusiast, e-commerce and marketing strategist. She works as a tech and automation lead at VGC Group and also the founder of EdTech Startup. Charity is inspired and she helps to contribute to digital transformation in Africa. So once again, we welcome Charity for a lightning talk. Sorry, Charity, you are muted.
Okay, please indicate if you can hear me now, and then I can just go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Let me just see if, okay, yes. Okay, so good morning. My name is Charity, as you can see on the screen. I'm currently the tech and automation lead. All my career, I've been doing more of project management, but this is very recent for me, okay? And I'm also a marketing and e-commerce person. And then a co-founder for eSchool Finder too as well. I do have a blog, shetechpreneurs.com. That's where I got my name from. Okay, what can I do? Normally on a normal day, I help business people create systems in automating their business. My specialization is mostly in marketing automation, really, but yeah, we do other things too as well. Yeah, so this is a sample of my work. On the left, you see eSchool Finder that I'm building, not ready. And then you see just by it, it's called After Mall. It's a marketplace that I'm also overseeing in my current company. So yeah, I want to talk about automation, automating your business. The case is really about using third-party softwares available. So yeah, now, people have been looking for ways to do things more convenient way, like easier, better, more colorful, convenient, faster. This is not a bad scenario. This is not bad, especially for business owners who mostly do not have the luxury of time to do everything and hire or have money to hire team members or to be everywhere at every time. This becomes extremely important, okay? Now, the data is saying that CEOs spend almost 20% of their time on work which could have been automated. Now, this is bad for business growth, and this is also bad for revenue. Okay, so when it comes to automation, I picked marketing automation because it's what I do and it can be replicated throughout the other processes, okay? So what it is, it's a technology that manages processes and campaigns across multiple channels almost automatically. So the key word here is automatically. So whichever area of business area you want to automate, the key word here is that something that you could have been doing for a very long time, these systems will help you do it almost automatically, right? And then what does it help you to do? It helps you reduce stress, fatigue, increase productivity, and overall customer experience, and of course, growth for your business, okay? Now, I put this code here because there's this thing on social media, okay? Now we have TikTok, and also we have Clubhouse. Okay, now there are two groups of people. Some people are going to go there, observe, watch, laugh, and then there's another group of people who are going to look at this whole system and say, okay, how can I use this system to benefit myself, my career, or my business? Okay, so today I just want to believe that all of us here would use every system, including social media, to gain more and to waste our time. Okay, so I put here some of the processes that We can automate. You can automate your marketing. You can do that for your project management. You can do it for your sales. You can do it for customer relations, payments, any system at all. I think that the key here is that look at your whole business. Look at the parts where things are a little bit too much for you. You keep the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, so these are some of the industries that are crashing it. The examples are not limited to this really, like entertainment, fintech, or CRM. There are so many ones that are coming up. Whichever way, the most important thing is that you are able to pick steps or processes in your business that shouldn't become a burden to you. Okay, so as a marketing automation person, I picked a simple plan for a simple sales funnel, right? So this becomes the plan. Okay, we draw the plan, and then the next point is that what type of systems or softwares can we use to achieve this aim? The whole idea is that you have to draw your plan, make sure you understand the plan, and find the system that will make it easier for you, not the other way around, because there are times that people find the system and try to do more than what will help their business. Okay, so this is the code. When it comes to business, 60% of occupations could save 30% of their time. And some of these things could be sales leads, approving paperwork, or processing documents. Okay, so this is the problem. This part of work can actually be automated. So I'm just going to give an example of how I started earlier on in my career some few years ago. I was managing an e-commerce client, and every single day I had to update my Excel and all of that. Now, the client need reports, and I have to do that every single day. It was difficult for me, really. Every single day, I sit down and I have to do this one after the other. Now, this is not a picture that is so far away from what is happening, especially in our part of the world. But then later on, I did realize that there is a whole way I can connect my whole Excel sheet, and then all information can go in, analyze, and then all I have to do is to check my report or analytics in my analytics software or whichever system that I am using. So this is the scenario. So this is where I tell you that you are ready for automation. It really doesn't matter what part of your business you are, whether you're a starter or not. Now, this is the point where I tell you that you are ready for automation. Even though statistics indicate that automation has been used by global businesses, especially B2Bs, there's also evidence that small businesses can use it to improve their business and revenue. You do not need to become a big business before you begin to think about how you can automate your processes. In fact, this is how I say it. You really need it, okay? Because as you can see, some successful founders, when you read their stories, they will tell you that I started something at the side, but you can't do everything because you have a day job, okay? And so they had to use automation to move quickly. Okay, so now to the point where factors that you consider, I'll pick just two, okay? When you come to us to help you with some of these things, these are some of the questions that we are going to ask you. And the first thing is, what is your revenue? How often do you gain sales, and what level of business you are? The reason why we are saying that is because we want to pick a system where we know that you can actually afford and use for yourself. Because this is a bad principle for you to get systems that are like maybe the costs are higher than your revenue. It's actually not a good principle in business, like cost and revenue. Okay, and then also your skill set is also very important, because there are times that we pick systems for people and they just cannot use it. And so it's very important to know what skill sets you are, and you start like you start from wherever and then you move higher. So for best practices, I think I'm just going to pick one, which is like there is always a human element. Okay, so there are times that people set up systems and it's almost as if there is no human being behind it. Okay, I know that scientists are making sure that they are putting in the human elements, their things, because they've realized that people will not always want to overdo it. And so they want to have a human element in it. So whilst you are doing it, make sure that your personality is behind it. When it's a boat you are building, make sure that it has a way to communicate to people. And then also make sure that you do it one day at a time. And so what are my final words? I'm here in a community like this because I know that the digital agenda starts with us, okay? Our work here is that we need to look at the systems, the business processes, whichever industry, and then we pick areas that we know that things are being a little bit difficult because automation with the help of AI, machine learning, and all of this is really the new thing right now. So Africa needs to have a contribution. We create apps, we create businesses, facilitate work. Other countries are doing it. And so this is where I still tell you that you are ready for automation. I hope I've been able to convince you with this few minutes that I have. You can contact me here if you have any question, reach out to me. And then, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Namesake. And just as you can reach her on Twitter via Techmakers. Our next lightning talk speaker is Zalihat. And with Zalihat, she dreams and then focuses. She's a first-class computer science graduate, specializing in data science and machine learning operations. She is currently working as a data scientist in a Homie AI Labs. Let's welcome Zalihat.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I don't know if I'm audible. Please let me know if I'm audible. Okay. So, yeah, my name is Mohammed Zalihat Orazi, and I am joining in today from Kano State, Nigeria. I'm a junior data scientist at Hamoya Labs, and today I'll be talking about dreams and goals, basically. So, let's start with dreams, right? So, when we were growing up, we all had like probably different dreams than what we are currently living. So when I was little, I wanted to become a doctor. I have no idea what doctors do. I just knew that they give people injection and make people feel better. So I wanted to become a doctor. But here I am today, doing something different. So your dream is just series of images, thought or desire that passes through your mind. It's a desire, right? Something you really want to like achieve, but you really don't have a plan yet. It's just like an imagination, basically. And so goals are like the desired outcome that you have plans and commitment to achieve. These ones are more concrete. They are more they have deadlines too. So an example of your dream might be that you want to travel around the world, or you want to become like the best developer there is in the world, right? That actually is great, yeah, but it doesn't really have a deadline because like nobody is going to actually become the world best developer if you don't put in the work. So it's just talk, basically. And so your goals now can be like I want to travel to Accra, Ghana this year, right? So that's more specific, that's more concrete. That sounds like a plan, something you are going to achieve. And you can also say, okay, there's this tutorial I have on JavaScript. I'm going to learn it so that I can become like the world best developer, something like that. So these ones are more specific and concrete. And so I saw this quote somewhere that just waiting for your dreams to come true on their own will never happen. And this is actually true because you can't say you want to be like the best in the world if you're just going to sit down in one place and do nothing about it, right? You have to like take the driver's seat because what we are talking about goals and dreams is about your life, right? So you really have to like take control. And how do you take control of your dreams and how do you make them come true? So you do this by setting goals, right? So these goals are the things that are going to make you make your dreams come true. So one of the first thing, which is very common among us ladies, is self-doubt. Because we feel like, oh, their guy is doing this thing. I don't think I fit in. but I really want to develop this application that is going to help my community and is going to like help the world, but I feel I'm not good enough. So if you start having self-doubt, that's the first downfall. It's not going to happen if you start feeling like, oh, I can't do it. So the first thing is to believe in yourself, right? Believe that you can actually do this thing. Actually, nobody has it planned out. Nobody has like a concrete plan. When Facebook happened, nobody really knew that it was going to be this big, right? And even the guy that even invented Facebook just had it as a thought. It started as a thought. He didn't have like the whole plan and all. And then the second thing is to visualize it. So sometimes just sit down and think about it. Okay, so I want to build this application, right? That's going to help a lot of people. Just take time and sit down and look at it. Okay, so how many people are going to like use this application that I'm building? You kind of visualize it, like you're imagining how people are going to use it, how you are going to be asked to talk about it. They'll be like, oh, this person built this website or this application that is really helping people. Please come talk about it. So it kind of drives you to do more, right? It kind of drives you to want to do it because you're already seeing how people are going to use it. And then another important one is to get it down. Make sure you write, because ideas come like flashes, right? It just comes and goes. Sometimes you might actually have like this plan and you start thinking, wow, I thought I wanted to, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Or this picture is not supposed to be here. If you had just written it down, it would have been easier for you to remember, because like, and you don't have to really write it on paper and biro. I think there are some tools that can help you like do that. And then you have to like have a purpose. Why do you want to build that application that is going to help a lot of people? You have to know why you're actually doing it, because like there's really no point if you're going to like build something that you don't even know why you're building, right? And then you have to commit to it. You have to make sure that you are consistent. So it's not like just saying that you want to actually do this thing and then tomorrow you are already slacking off. You're losing focus, you get. So you have to like make sure you are committed to it. And like I said, you have to stay focused. There are going to be like a lot of negative energies. People are going to say, oh, what kind of app do you want to build? Do you know that a lot of people building this app? Or you want to talk coronavirus? A lot of people are actually doing something related to coronavirus. This thing is going to fail. Or you don't even have a good UI. Oh, this is so bad. I don't even think this is going to go outside your machine. So you're going to have like those kind of energy, which sometimes is good, because if you look at it, it's like a driving force, because they're like, oh, you think I can't do this? I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. So you have to like stay focused and have a plan of action, right? So you have to like have a roadmap, because you can't just keep building something like you're just building layers on top of layers. You don't even have a plan. You don't have a concrete plan, right? So you have to like have a roadmap. So today for this month, this is what I want to do. I want to build maybe the structure with HTML. I'm not really a web developer, so I'm just going to like use that as an example. I want to build the HTML. Then next month, I'm going to maybe add CSS. And then maybe another month, I'm going to start looking at the interaction and accessibility. So that looks like a plan, right? And every time you achieve one, you tend to have this feeling like, oh, wow. So I was able to actually do this, you get. So another thing that holds people back is that they don't really have like this thing that, oh, let me start it now. They procrastinate a lot. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to start tomorrow. I don't really feel like it. Let's just wait till next week. Let me just finish my exams. Or okay, let's just leave it till next year, right? So most people have that habit of procrastination. So there's no better time than now. So if you want to like build the next thing, if you want to create something that is going to be remarkable, you have to start it now, right now, even like at this very moment. And accountability, yeah. So a lot of people have mentors. I do have mentors, and I believe the reason why we have communities is so that we can have mentors, and people can come in and feel free to like talk to these mentors and have the opportunity to actually get mentoring for free. So accountability comes in two ways. The first one is your own personal accountability. So look at it. Okay, you set a plan this month that you're going to do you're going to add CSS to your website, and then you couldn't do it. Something came up, like something can always come up, right? And you are now feeling bad because you were not able to do it, right? So accountability is like evaluating what you said you were going to do. Were you able to do it? You have to hold yourself accountable, right? And then another part is having somebody that is going to be bugging you, kind of. So if you have like a mentor that is going to serve as your accountability partner, the person will ask you, oh, you said last week that you were going to like add CSS to your website. Were you able to do it? Why were you not able to do it? Okay, so let's look at it together. Oh, you can do this, you can do better, you get. So the last one is review, right? So after all these things, right, you might actually want to look at what you've achieved in the past, right? You want to look at, okay, so last week I said I was going to do this and I did it, right? Is there anything I can do better? This plan that I have, is there anything I can add to it that is going to like make it better, or just an improvement, basically? So you can do this review by doing it alone, or you can actually like look for somebody else to help you review it. And lastly, there's this thing that we really don't talk about, but it's very important in tech communities, is mental health. Because I work from home and it kind of shuts me out of the world. Kind of, I'm not really used to having like physical meetings or having like physical interactions, basically. So it's kind of like different from meeting
Hi,
people
Zed.
because they're always. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so
Oh,
yeah,
no
so that's
problem. Thank you so much.
mental health. Thank you very much.
That was a very interesting presentation. Yes, my take home is that it's not about you having goals, but they need to take actions in line with the goals that you have set in order to meet your goal. Our next lightning talk speaker is Angela. And with Angela, her lightning talk is about introduction to OpenStreetMap. Angela is a map enthusiast and a volunteer who have made a lot of contributions to the OpenStreetMap community by mapping areas of interest and then organizing trainings for others. Let's have Angela have her lightning talk.
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. Unfortunately, I can't show my face because my internet is just terrible. So I'm just going to go straight up to it. I'll just do a brief introduction to OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is, most people say it's a map that saves the world because it actually does. This map is being used by the Red Cross, UN to help save people. The recent occurrence was Lebanon explosion, and they put it across to volunteers to help map Lebanon so that when aid organizations like UN, Red Cross, etc., are looking for places where people stay, they could actually target them. So I want to teach you today just how to navigate offline maps. An offline map is called OSM and what OSM and does is that you'll be able to search for locations, etc. offline. You don't really need internet connection, just as something that you can take away as well. OSM and is available on iOS and both Play Store as well. So as I said, it's used to navigate maps offline, and it uses the OpenStreetMap database, which is added to the data is added to the database by volunteers just like you and I, and it can use it for navigation when you want to go wherever you want to go to the market, you want to go to the hospital, etc. And it's done by downloading this map offline. So you download this map offline with all the map data, etc. And all these contributions are done by the OpenStreetMap community. You can customize that. This is very interesting to the web developers. They can look into this space as to what they can do with maps, and they can just play around with it. You can create plugins, etc. And this is just a small interface that shows bus stops, healthcare, town and fuel station and roads as well. This is in Ghana, Accra. Those people who are very familiar would know the Ringway Estate, the UDS Street, the Ring Road East, etc. And when you want to look for places like accommodation, cafe, restaurant, it's been categorized under a category: finance, food, health, etc., which makes it easier for people to navigate. And if I want to look for healthcare under this category, it will show me the healthcare facilities that are closest. New Vision Dental is 574 meters away from my house, and we have the bank, hospital annex, you have East Cantonment Pharmacy, and all those things. These are really helpful ways. And I'm very athletic. I like to jog a lot, and I use this to know my tracks, where I have been to. It just records all these GPS coordinates for me, and I'll be able to have some track analysis. I'll be like, okay, so today I jog for 2.5 kilometers, and I use 14 minutes to do this jogging. And as said, achievements, accountability, all these things help boost your morale, etc. So this is just a little small knowledge sharing as to what um, OpenStreetMap is for developers to go and you play around. This is free, open source. Anybody can have access to this map and play around with this data. And also people who want to navigate offline maps can also use it as well. And other people who want to do track analysis, they want to know how far they've gone when it comes to jogging, etc., can make use of this as well. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you've gotten something out of this to use a map that you can use offline. Thank you.
Thank you to Angela. That's it for our lightning talks. So we would have a question and answer section, and Samira will handle that.
Okay, so actually, Perez will handle that. So I'll hand over to Perez to take over for the Q&A session.
Thanks, guys. My internet was kind of sketchy, but let me see if I can turn my camera on. Okay, hi everyone. So if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat and we'll read it and read it out. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, there's one in the chat from Cowboy Doris. It says, as a business owner, automating some of our processes has been very helpful. Thanks for the session. And she's asking if we can have a demo in the future. So Charity, that question's for you.
Okay, sorry, yes, definitely. I had just a few minutes to give my talk, but yeah, going forward, I will, if for instance I have more time, I would have actually gone ahead to look at the different business processes, the critical business processes that you can actually automate, and also the statistics according to research that is it. And then also I'm going to go to like the basic automation you can have. Okay, you will really be amazed. Most of our clients are in the US, okay, and then some in South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. These are some of the most of the places that we get. And then you can see a business owner who is getting like so much revenue. Look at their revenue sheet and all of that, but they don't have these basic things. They really don't. You ask them, where are your leads? Because that is where I talked about data in my slides. Where are your leads? How can we analyze to see who is here and who is not there? How can we target these people with ads or this? And the person has nothing. but this is someone who has been generating so much money. Okay, and so if I give some examples, it will be too obvious when you know some of these businesses. So it became very important when I had the opportunity. I knew that I had to talk about this. So yeah, I can do a demo in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charity. Does anybody? Oh, we have about 10 minutes more for questions before we move on to our next session. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. Okay, so we have one from Samira, and she says she'd like Dalia to explain accountability and goal setting.
Okay, so thank you very much, Samira, for that question. So accountability is basically holding yourself, I don't know how to put this, but it's like holding yourself accountable, knowing that, okay, whatever you are doing now is for you. And if you don't do it, these are the consequences. It's just like penalizing yourself. Oh, I couldn't drink enough water today. And then like, so that's basically it. And you can do it in two ways, like I said. You can look for an accountability partner. So the person will be like, oh, you said you were going to like exercise today. Why didn't you exercise? And when you feel like you are accountable, like you have somebody that is going to ask you, it will make you even want to do it more because you know that he's going to ask you and you're going to have to answer. So I don't know if that answered your question, Samira.
Does that answer your question, Samira? Well, we also have another one from Frank Anaki. He's asking, what software do you use for automation?
Yes, okay. I saw that question. Yeah, so there is no particular software that you use for automation. Okay, there are several, and thanks to Silicon Valley, and of course, our wonderful developers in Africa, we have so much that we don't even know where to start from. At first, it was just maybe one, but then now like I don't want like there's so many of them. People have come up to this because of the influence of AI and machine learning and all of that. But then this is what we are going to say. I'm going to tell you is that what process of your business do you want to automate? That's the first one. And the second question I'm going to ask you is that what do you want to achieve? What goals do you want to achieve? So for instance, somebody is going to come to us and tell us that, okay, I want to increase my revenue. And the type of product the person is selling is maybe physical products. So yes, you are going to start with an e-commerce platform. Maybe if it's Shopify or we are building a custom site, we do that too as well with our project managers and all of that. So once we know what you want to do, then we will put in the system. So there's a system for SMS marketing that automates from the beginning to the end. It takes the leads, analyze the leads, sends email, invite the person almost automatically, like the way I explained from the beginning. And so there is no particular software that you mention. So if you tell me what type, it would be great for me to know. So there's email, there's software systems, there's SMS system, project management. If you want everything at the same time, you use HubSpot or Salesforce. You can use Agile CRM if you want to have everything at one place. That's when now you've gotten into a stage of business where you know that you want to manage everyone in one system. Yes, so these are some of the things. There's also another situation where you are a software engineer and you don't want to use any of this third party. Okay, so there was this example of a student who has so much to read in a law school. And so she, with her knowledge of AI and stuff, she actually built an algorithm that picks keywords and then she could focus on those places. And she actually passed her exam. So that's the whole idea of automation, removing the human efforts of like repetitive work that like ends up being automatic and then helps you to increase your revenue or your growth or whichever area you're trying to improve upon. So I hope I've answered some questions.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there another? Let me check comments. I see. Okay, it's just Pascalina saying thank you. Okay, so now there are no more questions. I'll just go ahead and introduce the next up. We have a Reframing Your Narratives workshop by Kalinda Fonda. So her tech career started by learning how to program online through courses, videos, and tutorials. She was captivated by online education's mission of creating opportunities and making them more accessible. This inspired her to work at an ed tech company like Udacity and Code Construct, where she got to meet and help many people in their pursuit of a tech career. From beginners to those looking for a career boost. She is now back to working on her own programming skills as a software developer apprentice of Google. So Kalindi, you're welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's very exciting to be here today. And yeah, thank you, Therese. I'm really excited about helping people reframe basically how they present themselves, because that's often goes a long way in getting opportunities. So anytime we're ready, we can actually jump in. So the title of this is Reframing Your Narrative, because basically we're going to think about our lives and prepare a bio. So that's the goal. And this workshop was basically done with just one second, let me find. Was done with Women Techmakers and Write Speak Code, which is a safe place for professional women, non-binary and trans technologists to explore basically thought leadership, and you learn how to write, speak, and code. You can actually even check them online now, given the fact that all the events are online. They have really interesting events, and this workshop was created together, and now we can all learn from it. So let's go next. So our goal today is basically to come up with a bio that we're going to be comfortable basically sharing and showing. So before we start, basically use the chat to write any questions, tell your stories, share your comments, ideas. Feel free to ask me to repeat anything if it wasn't clear, and make sure to also connect with other people. So if people say something, feel free to say, oh, this is an awesome story, or this is very interesting, and also then connect later, maybe on LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere. And so in order to be ready, prepare some paper or a document, like many papers actually, and the pens, because we have quite a few activities. So the way it's going to work is I'll tell you one activity, and then I'll have a timer, and then then when the timer is up, we're going to go to the next one. So it's a very interactive. So feel free to share. Yeah, okay. And one more housekeeping slide. So feel free to speak from your experience. And as I said before, use the chat. and use emojis, words, everything for recognition as well, and be kind, respectful, and enthusiastic. Like, we need to create a safe environment, and most importantly, also have fun, because I think life is much easier and better when we have fun. So especially when it's quite hard to talk about yourself or oneself, and so then it has to be quite, we have to be kind to ourselves. So first of all, you can introduce yourselves in the chat, and so maybe you can say a bit about yourself and also one thing you hope to get from this session, and then maybe you can use an emoji to show your mood. I'm also, let me look at the comments so that I can react to them live. Okay. Nice. Okay, good. I see that you have pens and papers ready. So, but the first part is actually, nice. It's not going to be so scary. That's, we're going to try to make it fun. So first, the first part, we don't need to do too much yet, but first question actually. So who feels comfortable wearing this tag? Does anyone feel like they could put this on themselves? So, and I guess the next question is, does any one of you already have a blog, or maybe contributing to some publications, or speaking at conferences, or contributing to open source? And if you do so, feel free to add a me in the chat, or like also share what you're doing. So basically, I guess it's very, when I saw this sticker, I was like, oh, there's no way I can put it, like, I'm not an expert. But then when you start thinking about what you've done and what you know and so on, you kind of realize that you know some things, like someone's a beginner, you can help them with something. If nothing, maybe bake a cake, you know how to bake a cake, or I don't know, like help a beginner friend with some programming tips or with an Excel sheet. So yeah, so all this doubts have come under a big name that you probably heard in the tech world. We hear it quite often, which is basically imposter syndrome, and is like a lot of people have different explanations of it, but one of the main ones is like everyone is going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing, or oh, I'm not good enough. And personally, like, I'm not a fan of this word, but then, and I'm like, oh, I don't have imposter syndrome, or I'm not this. But then when I read this list, basically, right, I can find myself in this. So basically, who has said, oh, it was just a simple thing, or simple bug fix, or I only did a little part, and yeah, okay, maybe I'm good at this. I feel like we all know how to, we all think that our, when we are successful, it's outside of us, and when we're not, it's like inside of us, like we're the ones responsible. So it's interesting how there's this discrepancy between us thinking that when we do well, it's because we were lucky or so, whereas when we don't do well, it's because of what we did. So yeah, so imposter syndrome especially comes, as Samira said here in the chat, at work. Yeah, and it's really interesting to see. So what is imposter syndrome? Yeah, swimming expert. Nice. Another sea enthusiast. I love swimming as well. Yeah, so I guess there's a few different understanding of the imposter syndrome, like that we dismiss success, and the feeling kind of doesn't go away, and it's easy to convince ourselves that we don't know things and so on. So, and it's very even more present when one is maybe, like, for example, a minority somewhere, like women in tech, or in some racial, like across racial and gender lines. So let's go to the next slide. Well, so basically this is the some of the elements. For example, this inability to internalize accomplishment, or thinking that we managed to trick everyone, or even the feeling that one shouldn't be here. So there's actually this cycle people talk about, which is, I can maybe share how it happened to me on preparing for this talk. So at the beginning, I signed up for this talk because I like giving talks, and I was like, yeah, this is so awesome. I'm gonna do so well. And then I was like, oh no, oh what about this? Or what if I make mistakes? And then one gets worried, and then I have a talk, and then I'm happy, and then right after I'm like, oh no, but I forgot to read these chats, or like there's this focus on tiny things that don't really matter so much. And then instead of enjoying that I managed, I'm like one denies one's success. So I think it's important to kind of break out of the cycle, and there's like little tricks one can do, like trying to write down what went well and then rereading and and things like this. So it's important to kind of realize that this happens and be like, oh no, I'm not gonna fall for it. So I'm just gonna leave this quote here. So it's interesting that even when we do something very often, we still feel like we're not that good at it. So it's an interesting part. And like Charity says, it's very difficult to call myself an expert. And I agree, it sounds so big, but we're going to learn a bit later that actually being an expert is just being able to like share one's knowledge. Okay, yeah, actually here. So why does it matter? Like, why does it matter for us to be to call ourselves experts, or to be willing to share what we know? So tech is actually often made by communities, and it's very communal. So for example, I mean, I started learning online. So if you we had to Google, and I learned so much from like Stack Overflow and conferences and books and blogs. And if people wouldn't have shared and put themselves out there, like we wouldn't have learned. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't think they were experts, but they were willing to share. I heard something really interesting about when you know a lot, okay, you can share your knowledge. But even if you're a beginner, you can share your unique perspective, or you can help other people who are just like, who started maybe a day after you can help them in the process. So I think there's always something that we can share, right? So what we can do about it, like there's a few steps of what we can do to like fight against this, or become more open and more secure in ourselves. So the first one is basically acknowledge and go forward. So this is when you realize that everyone is going through similar emotions, or everyone has these doubts, it's much easier to, it's like, oh, okay, everyone's like, I can also help others to feel comfortable if they like, by empowering, or by complimenting, or ensuring that I think we're all in the same boat. So for those of us here who play Among Us, I really like this meme. So, you know, Among Us is a game where there's one imposter usually, or two, and then you have to find the imposter. But I think this is quite a good indicator of how it is maybe at events or conferences or at work. Like everyone's worried that they don't do well enough. So I think it's really important to realize that we are all in the same boat. And then this is basically recontextualizing, which is something I mentioned before as well. Like experts are not people on pedestals. It's just people who want to share what they know. And basically this means if you own your expertise, you're able to share. Thanks, Deborah. Thank God for Stack Overflow. I agree 100%. Like I've learned so much from there. So yeah, that's why it's really, really important to share. So who's excited for the first exercise? So these exercises are going to be really short, like 1 or 2 minutes. And the reason for it is also so that you don't need to think about it too much. So it's just take a paper and then just write down everything that comes to your mind. Okay, so I'll have a timer ready, and then I'll tell you to start, or you can start also as soon as you see the activity. But here, write 10 accomplishments or more or less in 2 minutes. And it can be something small from I managed to go for a run today, or I finished university, or got a new job. So just feel free to write anything. And yeah, as mentioned before, don't write just or lucky, but own your accomplishment. I'll actually also write a few. Time's up. Okay. Is there someone who's maybe I can ask an easy question first and then a harder question. So how many did you manage to write? I managed to write 7 and then I got a bit stuck. And also if anyone feels comfortable, it would be awesome if you shared some in the chat. And also if you share in the chat all the other participants, you can maybe cheer people's accomplishments, because I think it's always great. Yeah, nice. Samira 5. I for example, getting a job at Google for me is a really good accomplishment. But then I also put something like we made a really good lasagna 2 weeks ago, so that's also one of these accomplishments I came up with. Yeah, nice. Samira similar got a permanent job right after school. Yeah, it's congrats on that. Yeah, and so just one tip for the chat: don't worry if I start talking about something else. Like sometimes in the chat I spend like a long time chatting, and then the speaker is already talking about something else, and then I'm like, oh no, should I delete? But no, just send it out at any time, basically. Wow, Deborah 7, nice job, and Mail QS 9. That's really good. Cool. Keep it up. Okay, let's go to the next task, which is write 5 or more things related to tech that you can teach. So if you get stuck, feel free to think about really simple, small things as well. So let's say a friend of yours is like, oh, I want to do something tomorrow. And what would you tell them, right? What could you learn? Okay, we're going to have 1 minute for this. So let's start now. Okay, time's up. If anyone wants to share in the chat, feel free. I also struggled, but I managed to write a few. Also, if you share in the chat, that's nice. Maybe someone can ask you for help at some point. And MailQS 9.1 was run every day this week. That's really amazing. It's very important to keep healthy. Okay, so let's take it a step further. So now there's a few, now we actually have a few lines that can help us look at it when we start getting doubts. Like, I think having lists like this is really useful also, like when you're like, oh, do I know how to do this? But then it's like, oh no, actually I remember when I did this, or I know that I can teach someone this or that. So it's useful to have this kind of list. So the next step is what can Samira said that she got only 2 out of 5 things she can teach. But I'm sure, Samira, I'm not sure if this is the same Samira who's doing the stream, but I think you've done amazing with the stream. So I definitely can learn that from you. I'm sure there's a lot more than 2. That's what I'm thinking. And go Deborah for writing 5. So I guess my next question is, how do you recognize credibility in someone? Like, when you see someone, what makes them look like an expert, or what makes them look like something, like someone you can trust for their knowledge? Yeah, it's the same, Samir, as the StreamYard. Yeah, I'm really impressed by how well you're making all this work. So definitely lots more we can learn from you. Okay. So what is credibility? What makes someone an expert? Oh, nice, Charity. So one of my biggest and challenging achievements is when I was asked to lead tech and automation for all accounts at my company. That's quite a pretty big accomplishment. This is really, really good. And it's I think also I like the fact that you write challenges as well, because I think after we manage to live with a challenge, like survive or work through a challenge, you can put that on your list of accomplishments, and it kind of makes you more safe for the future. So Samira is saying, when they're confident with what they're teaching, that makes the person credible to me. So when they believe in what they're saying in some way, right? And so crafting credibility. So what gives someone credibility? And there's a few things. There's like the knowledge, there's the experience, what have they done, what did I know? And then there's like this shiny little jewel thing, so an impressive or unique thing that it's part of you. So I guess now, if we take it back to ourselves, what is something I need to know about you so that I can trust you in what you have to say? Like, how can you weave this knowledge and experience, or this little jewel into your experience, into your story, so that you can, like, other people can believe you? And Menumat wrote, I can teach graphics, packages, statistics, web packages, web development, career development, and how to organize events. That's awesome. I like your list. Nice. That's really good. So I guess I'm just leaving everybody with this question for a moment. So what can you tell me about you so that you can increase the trust I have in you? And so let's go into the next task, which is crafting credibility. And so what's your little shiny jewel? And so there's like maybe things you've created, some awards you've had, or in the press, or institutions that you're associated with, or like where you work, or education, or maybe like conferences you've organized or been to even sometimes. So what are So let me give you 1 minute, and so you can think about even places you've been or things you know, or so you can come up with a few. Okay, time's up. Did you manage to come up with something? I found this one a bit harder than the others, but I feel it's interesting how when you have like a brand name like Google or Udacity was in the online education, it's much easier to instill some kind of trust. But I feel like for me, one thing that it's my jewel is basically the fact that I'm made of my own path and I was learning online, and I think this creates a very strong story of basically creating experiences. So for me, that's my jewel that I like to share. And yeah, of course, anytime you can share in the chat, and then or maybe even share with someone, right, that's you're like living with or so. So Charity wrote, the project I worked on in my third year at school, it was about intensifying visibility of artisans and ensuring transparency in their services. That's really good. It's in. I like also the words you used for explaining, like they're very action-oriented verbs, and we're gonna learn more about it in the next in a few slides from now. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So who already has a professional bio? And then the next question is, has any one of you updated it in the last 3 months? And because of course, like as you have more experiences and you do more things or new things become important, we have to keep writing from scratch. So, and also depending on the audience. For example, I actually wrote the bio for this talk as well. So it was quite like I had to go through this. I always think it's a bit of an emotional drama when you have to write your bio, but I think it's useful. Then you have something that kind of displays what you have, what you've done, and what you can share. And I think it's really interesting and useful. So, what do we want to include in the bio? Basically everything from roles and then skills and strengths and experiences, values, even interesting tidbits about like hobbies or things we've done. Let me read this a comment first. Yeah, Samir is saying it's not easy to write a good bio. Yeah, it's not. And then we're even more critical to ourselves. Okay, so here's the task. We have 1 minute to list as many activities as you can. So what were your roles on your team, organization, or projects? Like what are some things you did, like tech lead, facilitator, speaker, program manager, designer, enabler, organizer? Yeah, just come up with as many words as you can. And they can be also for in private projects, or even like if you have a hobby with your friends or something and you're organizing, like maybe there's some strong words that can come out of there. Okay, time's up. How did it go? We have quite a few activities now, one after the other. So we can jump right into it, the next one. But feel free to share in the chat if there's anything interesting, or if you want to share even or maybe something you've discovered or so on. Just put it in the chat as well. But let's jump into the next skill, which is what do you know? List as many things as you can in 1 minute. So languages, frameworks, tools, especially now, for example, everyone's working remotely. You can add all the tools you know for that, or project management, and then also like documentation, testing, and so on. Okay, let's go. Yeah, just feel free to write as many as you want, even if you don't stop yourself from. Okay, time's up. Who's ready for the next activity, which is strengths? So what do you consider your strengths? Or even if maybe sometimes your friends or your co-workers highlight this in feedback sessions, like you ask them what could, or they, when they talk to someone else, they use these words. So what is something that that you're strong at? Okay. So the examples here are bug fixers, leader, pioneer of process, alignment, I don't know, listener, speaker, or so. Let's go. Okay, time's up. Who's ready for the next exercises, which is experiences? And so basically, what have you done? Like jobs, internships, apprenticeships, organizations you've worked with, schools or projects, both work and personal. So this we're going to have a little bit more time, because I'm sure there's lots to write about. And yeah, nothing is too small. This is some. I've done a lot of little projects, and sometimes you're like, oh, but it's not interesting or not important. But I feel like if it left a mark on you, I think it's important. So yeah, let's go. 2 minutes for this one. Yeah. Okay. Thumbs up. I've been laughing at the comments. I like the print whisper. I think that's a very, very important role. So I love it. And also, Mail QS says, good questions, really making me think. Yeah, and I agree. I've gone through this a few times, and it's good to just take a moment. And we have the next exercise already as well, which is values and what values are most meaningful to you, like what's important both between people or for as for yourself or for your company or so on. Actually, here there's a list of words that one can help, like you can help, like you can read through them and use them as well, but feel free to think about, like, I think it's important also to think about if there's anything else that came to your mind. So for this, I also give 2 minutes, and yeah, so I think it's values both for yourself, for the teams you work with, for what you want to show at the, like in the blog or talks you give, or like the people you teach. So let's go. Okay, time's up. I hope you were able to write a few things. I think it's interesting because values are also, like, they touch upon other kinds of emotional parts of ourselves. And I hope the list didn't, I sometimes when I see a list I get more confused than not, but I hope you were able to also find a few of your own and or get help by the list. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. So you can choose one of these sentences and then or go through all of them if you get stuck, but it's better to, like, pick one and then spend 3 minutes trying to write down, like filling up this prompt. I'll just start the timer and we can jump right in. And yeah, of course, if you have any questions or you don't understand a prompt or something, feel free to ask in the chat. And I love this comment that we're self-reflective. Nice. Thumbs up, and I agree. I'll pat myself too. That's really funny. Okay, now I'll let you self-reflect. Okay. I hope it went well. I think it's super. One thing I find so amazing about these things is how, even though, for example, I spend quite a lot of time thinking about my plans or what do I want to do or so on, it's interesting how rarely one asks these important questions to oneself. So I think it's really good that you're all here doing this. So Samira wrote, an important lesson I have learned in my career is how to accommodate my mistake and know that I cannot be perfect. The more mistakes you make, the more confident you are. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And I feel it's also when we understand that everyone is human, it makes us also much more caring, both for ourselves and towards everybody else. So I think that's a really good thing. Okay, review. It's time for a little review. So I guess like I also have like this full paper of stuff written out. And I guess if you look at this, what are you most excited about or most proud of, or what is something you want to show others? And then also, are there any themes, or was there something that surprised you or that you noticed? Yeah, so feel free to share in the chat. I'll wait for a moment for people to write out in the chat if they want to share something. One thing I noticed is that I find it quite hard to know what I want to, like my tech knowledge, even though I do work in tech. I find it, and I've worked as a mentor and reviewer of code and so on. And also like I've done quite a few projects of my own. And I find it hard to imagine, like it's hard for me to write down what I can teach, even though I've done it already. So that was something I noticed today, and I was like, oh dear, so much more work to do. So yeah. I'll go on to the next step, but if you're writing something, I know this is a longer thing, feel free, just send it anytime. Okay, so before we jump in, there's this important thing about language. So we have to show and not tell. So it's important to use the basically descriptive language. So instead of saying like I'm a creative leader that consistently meets goals, you can basically use all these words that it's like harness ideas or wrangle teams, or do masterful coaching. So it's important that you highlight what you do with the verbs you use, right, and adjectives. Okay, so now if we take a look back at our lists and our free writing, like we can maybe try to rephrase some of these things with active language. So the activity is basically to use this language, and I have a list of descriptive adjectives and action verbs again. So can you go through your list and see maybe some things that you wrote, and can you add these action verbs and descriptive projects into it? So Charity, nice job. One of the things I'm proud of is earning backend developer job title. That is really cool. And thumbs up on that. Yeah, so let's jump into this activity. Oh no, actually I'll just review your list and see if there's anything anywhere you can sprinkle these strong words into your into what you've written. Okay, and there's a few final tips. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Today is just the first draft, so whatever you write, you can get it you can repeat and rewrite many times again. So it doesn't need to be perfect today. So a few other tips. So use the tools you have, and then try to quantify. So for example, if you had I don't know how, like the talks you've given or places you've been, that's something I find it very hard. Like I find data to be difficult to use, but because I guess it shows a lot, but I think it's really important, especially for when you're applying for jobs on in resumes, everyone looks for numbers. And this invert the negatives is also a really important one. So for example, if you're a student or just new to the industry, you don't need to write that you're new and just a beginner. What you can say is basically you can help others do the same, go through the same path, or someone who's just starting, you can help them transition into the career. Like, so I think that's, and basically also sharing personal story is really, it's very powerful. So the time has come to write our bio. Okay, here I have also a few prompts, so that can help you, like with the if you get a bit stuck. So let's take 5 minutes, or maybe actually we are quite well on time, so we can take 8 minutes, and basically to try to write the bio. And here's both the prompts and some of these words, and you can put everything together that we've learned. And one more tip, it's really important, or at least for me, it's much easier to think about writing the bio if I know who the audience is. So I don't know, maybe you want to update your LinkedIn bio, or maybe you want to like you want to put it on top of your resume or in your blog, or so you can think about that. And also one thing I've heard is that some people prefer writing in third person because it makes it a bit easier. So if that makes it easier for you, you can do that as well. Okay, let's go. I'll start a timer. And I'm looking at the chat of this at the chat as well. So if there's any questions, feel free to add them. Okay, 8 minutes. Okay. How did it go? You can write in the chat if you managed, if you're happy with what you wrote, if you got stuck a little bit or you managed. Oh, nice. Hartina wrote, one thing I'm proud of is impacting others with the knowledge I've acquired. I cannot agree more with this. I think that's one of the point of having more knowledge is we can give it to more people. That's really well said. Yeah. Yeah, feel free to share in the chat if there's anything interesting you found or understood. So we're actually coming pretty much to the end of this workshop, and I agree. Basically, now I'm going to give you a little homework, which is to go back to your draft. If it's anything like mine, it's like a bunch of scribbled words on a paper. So if go back to it, write it again, try again. And then one important thing, I think it's also you share it with others, ask friends, family, colleagues to maybe read it, give it feedback, and so that, and then put it out there. Yeah, let's go. So to wrap up, if we look back, right, we first talked about the imposter syndrome and how it's hard to feel like an expert. And then we wrote about our accomplishments and the things we can teach. And then the shiny special thing about ourselves. We listed our roles, skills, strengths, experiences, and values. And then also rephrased it with like, there's a lot of words that one can use to rephrase it and make it more active. And then also wrote the first draft bio. I hope you're proud. Yeah, so Samira just wrote that each time she does this, my bio gets better. And I think it's super, I agree with this as well. So, and also I think I've also done this a few times, and it's interesting. You can always kind of hone in on a special part or an element of it to better explain it. So this is all from my side. Let's connect, and also make sure to connect between each other. Maybe you can find each other on LinkedIn or on Twitter or so on. So, and maybe you can share the bios with each other and give feedback to each other. I do have a few links, but I'm not sure how to share them. But they're just links that you can also find. Like if you go on Google and just type how to write a great bio. Let me see if I can share them here in private chat, and then we send them out on the YouTube chat. But yeah, yeah, basically, if you go to if you just Google all these things, you can find like both the action verbs as well as the like examples of other professional bios. So yeah, do people have questions? Or yeah, if people have questions or some thoughts, or maybe also I just want to thank so much the organizers and Samira for doing such a great job with the streaming and the YouTube. I think I've been in event organizing as well, and it's really seamless and everything. I love how you made the chats pop up and everything. So nice job.
Thank you, Kalindi. Every time I do this workshop, I learn something new, and I'm able to make my bio a little bit better. So thank you so much. I'm not sure we have questions. I don't see any. So yeah, thank you so much. We're just at the end of our program now. So I'll just add everybody in. So thanks, Kalindi. See you, and hopefully we can invite you again for another workshop later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, and keep it up and go chase your dreams. So.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So we are at the end of our program. And thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us up till now. I know it's been very long, but I guess it was worth it. And thanks to all the speakers, our lightning talk speakers, Majid and Kalindi from Google. Thanks everyone for being here. And thank you to MailQS, whoever you are. I'm sure Kalindi saw that. So if our mentor Memunat has any final words, announcements, or any announcements from any of the ambassadors for their local communities, as we are all here for now. If not,
Yes, Samira, let me chip this in quickly.
okay.
So if you are here and then you are in Kumasi, you can join the GDG Kumasi community on Twitter. It goes with the handle GD Kumasi. And then we have a Women Techmakers in Kumasi too. And that one too has WTM Kumasi as its handle. So you can follow us on Twitter and then send us a message for you to be added to our WhatsApp group. Thank you.
Okay, so that was for Kumasi. Any announcements for Liberia, the Gambia? I think now would be a good time. From Hartina or Teres? Nothing. Okay. So we have a post-event survey that will go out. So when you receive these forms, please, please, please kindly fill them out. And we will use the data we get to make more events for the community. We do not know exactly, we cannot satisfy every single person, but we will try to create events that will, make everyone happy in the end. So if you can fill out that form when it comes to you, we will very much appreciate it. For GDG Accra and WTM Accra, for WTM Accra, we don't have a main event for now. We don't have one lined up for now, but GDG Accra will be having Flutter Sundays, and it's basically Flutter. It's more like a study jam sort of, which will begin tomorrow, Sunday, and it will run every Sunday for 1 month. So if you are interested, you can go on GDG Accra on the event platform and register or RSVP for it. And finally, our event has been streaming live on YouTube. It is a new channel that we have created for Women Tech Makers, West Africa Anglophone region. We don't have so much content. This is our first content, but we hope to start creating content hopefully monthly. So subscribe, like, and do follow this channel, as we might be giving you more and more content after this. IWD always serves as a kind of pioneer program for everything. So that's about it from us. Thank you again so much for joining. If any of the ambassadors have anything to say, Hartina, the rest doesn't have much to say. Memunat neither. I think Charity is done. If not, we all say bye to the community. So bye. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. And we hope to see you in our next event.
Bye,
See
everyone.
you.
Bye.